Do you have to draft a high-end outfielder this season for your fantasy baseball team? We have the answer to that and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, Matt and I would truly appreciate it if you take the time out of your day to do that for us. And guess what? If you do decide to do that, you might as well take a screenshot of your 5-star rating and review. Join us on the subtext platform. Send us over that screenshot of your rating and review, and you will have a chance to join our listener league for this upcoming season. We already have we already have myself and Matt. Yes, that is my brother. That's my Matt right there. So you have myself and Matt already in the league. We got 2 other listeners in there, and we have 8 more spots that we're going to fill 4 of those spots on March 6th, and then the last 4 on March 20th. So make sure you get your entries in before then. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And guys, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. And guys, we're making the rounds. We're getting to the 2 most juicy positions, according to myself. We're starting with the outfield here today. We're going to have 3 parts for outfielders. We're going to try and cover the top 50. We have a bunch of great names lined up for you today in this one. And Matt, got to talk about the MVP first, right?
Oh, we do. But also, I got to just tell you, my wife's going to hear this tomorrow, and she might be taking a ride in Staten Island to go whoop your butt for saying you're Matt.
That's fair. That's fair. That is fair. That is fair.
She's a very jealous lady. She's like,
I will say this though. Hey, you were mine first. You were mine first. You were mine first, Matt. So you know what? That's what I'm going with, and I'm standing by it.
Bro, it's gonna be like David versus Mini Me, because she's like this big and you're like that big. So But anyway, all right.
I don't know if she comes with Maggie. I don't know. I think Maggie could take me, man. I think Maggie could take me.
She'll bite your ankles. So
there you go. Exactly. So I've already lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt. Let's get into it, brother. Let's talk some baseball. It's here, spring training. Oh Lord.
Yeah. Let's talk about the great MVP. Well, I'll read off the 5. I'll just go and then we'll go there. So you got Acuna, obviously 101. There's not much you have to really deep dive into him other than he's incredible. 40-40 is just probably something that's going to be done with ease again. Yeah. Mookie Betts, I breeze over him because he's just there on like 75% of every position. He's really turning into Christopher Morel. So we'll see. Oh, joke, by the way. Kyle Tucker, honestly, one of my favorite guys. Him to be the 3rd outfielder is interesting. I'm not really liking that, but I'll get in that in a second. Then Corbin Carroll and Julio Rodriguez. So let me circle back to the Kyle Tucker thing. Him going off the board as your 3rd outfielder over Julio, I think, is a little nuts. Kyle Tucker is great, but he is pretty much limited at 30-30 with like a 275 to 290 batting average. Yes, you're buying the team where he can go 100 to 120 runs and then 100 ribbies. Like that's not something that's out of the realm of possibility. But the upside of Julio could be Acuna. So, that is why, I'd rather take my shot on Julio. I feel like the only reason he's being drafted so low on Julio is because of his slow start last year, where, pretty much, we were actually telling everybody to buy low on Julio because, he just had a really bad start. But once he got rocking and rolling, he finishes one of the top players in the league. So, Julio Rodriguez may just have a slow start where he's, the anti Adrian Gonzalez, where Adrian Gonzalez was pretty much just April. Whereas Julio Rodriguez just hates April. And then once we get out of April, then he's just pretty much okay, I'm going to warm up now and play. So you might have to just bear with that. But I mean, you're not going to lose your league in April. You're not going to lose it in May. You will lose it in June, but that's when he starts rocking and rolling. And Corbin Carroll is an interesting one. I don't know if I draft him over the two that I was just talking about. For me, he's more of like the 5 of this group. I love Corbin Carroll. He had a fantastic season last year. Obviously, he could do 40-40, I think, too, at some point in his career. But I think it's more like 35-70 if you're really, really doing it. I don't know if he'll ever cross the 40 mark. There'll be that one season, but he's just not the guy I foresee doing the 40 every single year or somebody that's going to dance with it. It's always going to be like 35, 36, etc. So like that is the part where it's just like, okay. And then you could probably talk me into drafting him over Kyle Tucker. That's the one that's like, choose your preference at that point. And to be honest, like I may even still swing Carroll and I might retract that by tomorrow. You give me 5 minutes with baseball savant and that'll change everything. So, it's just one of those things. That top 5, you can't really go wrong. But other thing I'd say is Julio is my 2 in this regards. I don't think I'm picking bets that high either.
Yeah, Matt, honestly, that was almost a perfect breakdown. I think basically you said this. I don't want to I think you said this, that you would move Kyle Tucker down to 5 out of the group. Is that what you said? Yeah. So then we're basically in lockstep, because I would do the same thing. They're all superstars, especially Mookie Betts. I love that second base eligibility there. It just kind of gives you the freedom to move him over. But all of these guys are going within the top 6 picks according to ADP. So honestly, you really have to have a top 6 pick to get one of these guys. They're all absolute studs, and you can't go wrong. If you have one of these guys on your fantasy team, it's an absolutely great start. Well, let's move into these next 5 guys. We have Juan Soto of the New York Yankees coming off the board as the 6th outfielder, pick 8. Aaron Judge, also from the New York Yankees, 7th outfielder, pick 9. Fernando Tatis Jr. from the Padres, the 8th outfielder, pick 11. Yordan Alvarez from the Astros, 9th outfielder, pick 15. Then there's a huge drop off to the next guy, who is Michael Harris II, coming off the board as the 10th outfielder, pick 37. So when I get to around this range, it's still, Matt and I have been talking about it. Outfield is really thin. You want these guys on your team. And then even as you get to Yordan, it's still going to cost you a top, 15 pick for any of the guys we just named. There's not really huge question marks around some of these guys, but I think after you pass Juan Soto, Judge wasn't super healthy last year, has a little bit of a health question mark throughout his career, but nothing too major. Tatis Jr., we all know what has happened with him, but we all know the talent that's there. Go back to just a few seasons ago where, he had a monster season with a crazy amount of home runs, steals, RBIs. He's a 5-tool guy when he's really healthy. And Tatis is still super young, so I think we can bank on him bouncing back. Yordan, another guy with injury history, so he kind of scares me a little bit too. Honestly, out of all of these names, somebody that I tend to avoid, but I still think the talent is legitimately there. But if you have to pick a name within these first few people, it's very, very hard to do. So we might deep dive into him later. But Michael Harris is a name that we have talked about a lot on this podcast. If you listen to the last episode, we kind of deep dived him there a lot. So I'm not going to go crazy on him here, but he's somebody I like. I like to pair him with one of the earlier guys. I like to get Michael Harris somewhere in the 3rd round. If he falls to the 4th, even better. But I like to pair him with one of the higher end outfield guys. In my last draft, Matt, who did I have in that team with Harris? Who was my number 1? I'm totally blanking.
Fernando Tatis.
It was Fernando Tatis. Yeah. So I had Tatis and I had Harris. So I kind of paired him with another big name, and that's the way I approached Harris. I definitely don't want him as my number 1, but if you can get him as your number 2, I think there's I think you're okay there.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll start with a little bit of that. If you draft Harris as your 1, you lost your draft. You lost your season right there.
Sheesh. Matt, is the haterade there with you? Do we get a sip of the haterade for that one?
All right, I'll even do it with the pinky up.
Oh, there we go. So he's classy, guys. He's classy with the pinky up.
I'll keep it classy like Ron Burgundy, but like ultimately, he's definitely not a 1. He's not even a 2 in my book. So like, I mean, it's just a whole nother animal as to why. And I kind of went into it yesterday, but long story short, he's not going to have the opportunities in the counting stats, like in terms of like runs and ribbies, to really, provide a super value to your team week in and week out. So like you're going to lose a lot in that regards, and you don't want that out of your number 1 or 2. Like if anything, if he was going as a 3, that would change everything for me. If he was like from 36 to 24, like, okay, like then we can have a conversation about drafting him, but I'm not doing it as my 1 or 2. I'm not going to pass him over the guys in the next year in that regards. But hold on, but before we go on, we start talking about the rest of this group. We got about 7 guys left, and then we'll start talking about our targets and avoids. You can clearly see who I'm telling you to avoid. So, we'll get into it, but right here, right now, we'll be right back.
Guys, and we're talking about our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is always guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. And guys, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And guys, the one that's most important to Matt and I, especially this time of year, it's going to help you guys out a lot as well. We're introducing the Diamond Club for Locked On Fantasy Baseball. With your ultimate fantasy baseball companion, dive into the offseason with Matt and I as we provide our tiered rankings with over 100 outfielders and starting pitchers. You'll have exclusive access to our prospect insights, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and we're giving out personalized draft grades. When you have burning questions, we've got the answers. As the season unfolds, rely on us for dynamic content. Get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where the path to your victories begin. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. Woo! All right, guys, that is a lot. Matt, my brother, do you want to run off these next few names for the people?
Yeah, I also just want to circle back to one other name that's in this, and that's
of course.
Fernando Tatis. I'm going to put his name up here because it might be like a little bit of a take, but like ultimately he may be the most valuable pick in the first round, just based off of value wise for the later ones. Like honestly, after those big 5 go, like I'm pretty much targeting him in the first round. As long as no matter where I am, he can have a serious bounce back, which I think is bound to happen because last year he performed, even though his first year back in baseball after a year of between suspension and injury. Like we all forget who he is. He's still super young and he has the 40-40 upside as well. This is gonna be the last time we're gonna be able to pick him this cheap. So like, getting him at the end of the first round or even the middle, I think is a no-brainer for me. So, Fernando Tatis, but that was like my little take. But let me run off the next. So it's Luis Roberts, Randy Rosarina, Adolis Garcia, Mike Trout, Cody Bellinger. Like, and I'll read the last 2 names. It's Kyle Schwarber and Nolan Jones. So like Luis Roberts, my favorite second round, target. And they'll kind of lead into the targets as well. Like if I don't leave the second round with him, I haven't done a good job. And I like, it just I got sniped. Luis Robert is one of my favorite players for next year. Yes, I can understand the injury bug. Yes, you could even say, oh, the argument is he stayed healthy all year, but then he got the knee injury right into the playoffs. So technically, he really wasn't. But like, I don't care. He's played the whole season, and even if he misses like 3 weeks, you're going to tell me that that's not going to be the same thing for a bunch of other guys that are going ahead of him and after. Like guys miss time. Not everybody plays 160 games. His name is not Ronald Acuna that only misses 3 games. Like. Okay, like it happens. Luis Roberts plays 145 games, and I'm really happy. He can repeat exactly what he did last year with 38 home runs, like 85 runs, 85 ribs, and bat 290. Like we're good. And plus, he didn't even really run last year, and I think he still has that next level too because
He's fast.
Yeah, he's fast, and he could steal bags. And the team was just going through a lot of fluctuations, which is garbage. So like Luis Roberts is somebody that it should be drafted everywhere. Randy Rosarina is never a favorite target. of mine. I don't really ever draft him. It's just one of those things. I feel similar to how I feel about Harris. I prefer not to draft him. It just doesn't feel comfortable. The team construction is never right. Adolis Garcia is my backup plan if all else fails. And hits the fan. I like him. We all know what he can be. That team, you're pretty much just not buying his talent, but you're buying the team. Trout, I love the price. I can never pass up on him. We'll talk about Bellinger in a little bit. Schwarbombs, I don't understand the ranking. It should be a little higher. Not many guys are going to give you 45 home runs or 100 ribbies. Yes, I understand the batting average, but boom. And Nolan Jones. We'll talk about him in a little bit. I'm gonna hand it over to Dom because I spent about a good 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, you're good, but your takes are very spot on. I love the Luis Robert rant. And honestly, you say targeting him in the second, he's going in the third round, which I think is amazing value for him right now at pick 38. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Honestly, like Matt said, if I don't get him on a lot of my teams, it makes me upset. Because I honestly think he's going to be going in the first round next year if he can stay healthy and do this again. A guy that's only 26 years old. You're talking about he literally can do 40 home. He can go 40-40. He really can. When you're talking about fast, he's in the 84th percentile of sprint speed, so he can do it. He just has to go out there and get it done. Counting stats might be a little bit capped. That might be why people are being a little bit standoffish on him. But he's like a no-brainer over Michael Harris for me personally. Anyway. Randy Arozarena, Matt, you said it well. Not somebody I'm targeting. I don't want a guy that hits 254. The counting stats are good. 20-ish steals. 20-ish home runs. Nothing really blowing you away there. I'd rather wait at the position and get guys that I think have higher upside. It's just crazy to me see a guy like Randy Arozarena go at 12, and then somebody we'll probably talk about in our next episode, Josh Lowe going at 21. Crazy to me. Adolis Garcia, perfect, like absolute chef kiss of a fourth round pick. You get this guy has 40 home run upside, great team, counting stats going to be there, chips in a little bit in the steals. Probably not going to be a great batting average, but he's not going to drown you there, so I love it. Mike Trout, father time kind of catches up to everybody. The injury bug has been bad for Trout over the last few years. Not a target for me, not an avoid for me if I can get him at the right price. See, the thing is that Trout really goes where I like to start tapping starting pitcher. So, it's kind of a point where I might already have 3 outfielders on my team by the time that Trout's coming off the board. So, it's been a tough time for me picking Trout. I haven't done it yet this year, but I'm not going to blame you if you do. The upside is 45 home runs, 100 and 100. And close to 300, if not 300 batting average. Bellinger, Matt said we're going to talk about him later, so we're going to talk about him later. Kyle Schwarber is an interesting one. Love the power, love the counting stats. I think I'm actually on the opposite end of the spectrum as Matt. I think I still think it's a lot to pay for what he contributes, which is 3 categories of goodness, but God forbid something ever happens, and he's just like almost a glorified Max Muncy at that point. Nolan Jones, love Nolan Jones, but Matt and I have said this 1,000 times. I don't think either one of us has really drafted him yet. Another guy like Trout, I kind of haven't been in the position to draft yet, and by the time he's coming off the board, I already have 3 outfielders and hopefully a first baseman. And I don't know if he's eligible at first base on all platforms. I think Yahoo, he's still eligible at first base. So if he's not eligible at first on your platform, that's irrelevant. But Nolan Jones is a great young player. I think there's a lot of upside there. I'm not going to blame you. 30-30 is definitely in the cards for a guy like Nolan Jones. The counting stats might be a little bit questionable, but the batting average is legit too. So even if you get 30-30, 285 with on the low side 75 runs and 80 RBIs, that's still going to be very, very well. So I think Nolan Jones is going to surprise a lot of people. Another guy that I think draft value is going to move up. But before we get into this next part of the show and we talk about targets and avoids and kind of just go off on some nice rants that you guys aren't going to want to miss at all, we do have one quick ad.
Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins. I mean, if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA teams and players with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. And the more is this. If you're not going to listen to me for basketball betting knowledge and things like that, but I will tell you, the odds on certain guys for either, stolen base leader, like, Ellie De La Cruz
Go bet on Ellie De La
or
Cruz to lead the league in stolen bases. I think
yeah,
Matt, that's actually a great one. You're probably getting great
right.
odds on that too on
Or
FanDuel.
it's 750, but the better odds, and this is the bet I actually am placing, is Bobby Witt. It's plus 1,000. So, like, honestly, like, that is the one I'm taking to have the champion to win the title, because quite honestly, Bobby Witt has it in him. So let's see what happens. I mean, those are great odds. Throw $5 to $10 on it, and if it hits, you're gonna have a nice payout. So just take the shot. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, and we are back here, and I'm gonna start with an avoid. I think I'm gonna keep it negative. I just, it's just my kind of day.
Matt, I almost forgot this is a family friendly show, and drop the word I definitely will never drop on here.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's just one of those things. It's a little shock and awe.
If you guys are watching on YouTube, you're probably dying watching me and Matt crack up right now, just laughing. It's if you guys don't know, I'll drop this real quick. Matt and I have grown up together since we were kids. We've been playing fantasy baseball since we were literally like 12 years old, and basically like brothers. So we kind of just always in sync. We're always thinking the same thing. So that's why a lot of our takes are similar. But Matt, go ahead here, brother. Let's get the haterade out.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't so much hate. This is more of like it's an avoid if you can. And it's Cody Bellinger. I like Cody Bellinger. Do not get me wrong. I just want to see him do it again. Like, he has been a bag full of disappointment for the last couple of years, with between injuries and not living up to the expectations, and you know having to leave the Dodgers in order to be successful on the Cubs on a year that he was trying to get paid makes a hell of a lot more sense of why he performed the way he does than him consistently repeating it again. Now, I'm not saying he can't, because what he did, all the metrics of, like, I could go into it. I could talk about his EV. I could talk about, his barrel rate and his consistency, but that's just not us. Like, I do all that in the background and I give you a simplistic take. Okay. All that stuff looked good and repeatable. Do not get me wrong, but there is an incentive for these guys to play to get paid, because this is their living. So on contract years, this is what Bellinger does. He just signed a contract with the Cubs today when we were recording. So, you know, ultimately I want to see him do it and see if he's really playing for, actually playing, that he enjoys the sport, or hey, I just got paid. I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna be healthy and make sure I hit my bonuses pretty much. We shall see. So ultimately, what my whole point of this take is, I'm kind of avoiding it unless I am missing out on a tier of outfielder. Then I'll tap it. But if I don't have to, I won't. That is pretty much my approach for Cody Bellinger.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And this is another one actually surprising today, especially after what I just said. I'm gonna have to agree to disagree here on Bellinger. My thing on Bellinger is I was super out on him last year. Last year I said, no way, I won't take him for anything. His last 3 years are horrible. He stinks. Don't take him. Avoid, right? And then he comes out and did what he did last year. But I seen improvements. I see things in the numbers that make me think, okay, he actually has changed things and has a new approach because he got figured out, right? After 3 stellar years, he got figured out. Was really slumping. Well, the first thing I see that makes me believe that is the walk to strikeout ratio. 40 walks, 87 strikeouts. He really, really got that under control, as to where in 2022, in more games, he had 2 less walks at 38 walks and had 150 strikeouts. So that's okay. He made a positive improvement in that, right? He seemed to like hitting in Chicago, 95 runs, 97 RBIs, 26 homers, 20 steals. You love the counting stats. The 307 batting average, I don't think that's legit. But if you go back to his Dodgers days where he hit around, like 270, I want to say like on average right around 270, 275-ish. I think that's what we'll get from Bellinger. And he goes back to a place where he's familiar. He had a good time there last year. He's happy to go back to that Cubs team and hit third in that lineup where there's other guys in that lineup that are pretty good, So I think Bellinger has a lot of upside. What pick is he coming off the board? 50, 55. I think that's solid. If you get him as an outfielder number 2, I think that's going to be pretty good. But let's move into, I'll try and counteract. I'll counteract Matt's hate with a little bit of love here. My main guy out of this group was definitely Luis Robert. We already broke him down pretty well though, so I'm gonna kind of pivot and let's kind of see through these names here. What happened?
Friends reference. It's okay.
I wasn't a huge Friends guy. I wasn't a huge Friends guy.
It's all good.
And I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for that, but I did watch Friends. Just wasn't one of my favorite shows. Is it wrong for me to say Aaron Judge since he's a top 10 pick? But I always go back to the well for Aaron Judge. I don't think you can go wrong. I think there's still upside there. I think we know the 60 home run potential, the 100 RBIs, the 100 runs. He had back in what was it, 2 years ago when he hit the 60 home runs, he stole 16 bases, so we know he can steal if he wants to. And he's always been a good batting average guy. So I think honestly, if you're picking later in the first round, and let's say maybe he falls to pick 12 and you have the double tap there, I honestly think you can't go wrong with Aaron Judge at the end of the first round. I love him. And I know the stories are out there. I know Matt's going to bring it up with the toe, and he said the toe is going to bother him. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's a toe. Aaron Judge needs to man up and get there and they put that C on his chest for a reason. And I know I got the faith in him. He's going to go out there. He's going to be a man this year. And he's going to hit 50 home runs, and he's going to be well worth the draft price. Remember last year he was going as a top 3 pick. So if you're getting him at the end of the first round this year, I definitely think you should target him there.
First off, last year I said not to draft him in the top 3, and I was right. And again, I'm going to be right this year. So here's the thing: we hear the toe thing, how it's going to bother him for the rest of his career, and he's going to have to manage it. That's one big red flag. The other red flag is the fact that when you hear that the fact that he's probably going to miss a month, could miss 2 just based off of that, depending on how irritated his toe is really scary for a head-to-head categories points league. I mean, head-to-head categories league, because you're going to miss him. He's your best player. He's your first round pick, and he's going to be out against key matchups and times when you may need him. And you got to really pray that he just gets hurt at the beginning of the season, and the rest of the season during the playoffs, he's there and he's available. For a rotisserie league where you're playing like a 15 team, where you only care of what the total stats is at the end of the year for the category, Aaron Judge, great pick. But for a head-to-head categories league, I'm not trying to touch him with a 10-foot pole unless he's in the second round for me. And I already got one of those other elite outfielders. It's just I'm avoiding Aaron Judge in those regards because the price is just too high for a guy that could possibly miss a long term because my toe hurts. Sounds like my 2-year-old. But no, I mean, I can imagine it's probably excruciating. Do not get me wrong. It was for, funny effect. But anyway, I don't mean to be, that. It's just for this kind of format, I'm not touching him. Rotisserie, 100%. Head-to-head points leagues, not doing it either because you still need him in the lineup for that week. And
so Matt, with the Aaron Judge hate being said, do you have a target? Do you have somebody that you love out of all of these guys?
So I mean, outside of Luis Robert, my other like thing I'm doing like a little bit against the grain is if I wouldn't even say against the grain. I guess essentially bailout plan, all else fails, Adolis Garcia. Adolis Garcia is like pretty much safe. Like, yes, like he has a little bit of an injury tag, but I'm getting him in the 4th round. I'm not picking him in the 1st. So if he kind of goes down, I've been able to scoop him up as like my 2, sometimes 3, depending on how aggressive I'm being on outfielder and what the value I'm getting on guys. Adolis could be seriously great. And again, like I said at the top when I was covering him, you're buying not just his performance, but the team around him and what that can create for him. So he's going to be valuable across the board. I didn't give you much time to talk. So, if you got something.
Great take on Adolis. I love him as well. Somebody that I've found myself drafting a lot. It might change when, I'm kind of start pivoting strategies. We'll talk about that more as, we go through these episodes and kind of, deep dive on strategy with outfielder. We just wanted to kind of hit the big target names, top names, and give you guys our thoughts on them. But with that being said, we're going to call this one here. Thanks for, making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen. Shout out to our everydayers and new listeners, and make sure you throw a like, a subscribe, a comment, a rate, and review, and send it over to on subtext, and you got a chance to join our listener league. But guys, we will be back tomorrow with Outfield preview episode number 2. So until then, see you.
Peace.